Paul lays out a chain here that is worth slowing down on, because it does not go where most people expect. Romans 5 verses 3 to 4 says, "Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope." Before we even get into the chain, notice the two words at the very beginning, not only. Paul is not starting a new thought here. He is building on something he just said, that we have peace with God through faith, and that we rejoice in the hope of his glory. And then he says not only that. Not only do we rejoice in the good things, in the hope and the peace and the promise. We also glory in our sufferings. That word glory is the same word used for the rejoicing that comes before it. He is placing suffering and hope in the same category of things worth celebrating, and that is jarring on purpose. Paul was not writing this from a position of comfort. He knew what suffering actually felt like. By the time he wrote Romans, he had been beaten, shipwrecked, imprisoned, rejected, and hunted. He is not speaking theoretically about pain. He is speaking as someone who has been in the middle of it and found something there that could not be found anywhere else. That matters, because it means this is not a motivational slogan. It is a hard-won observation from someone who lived it. Now look at the chain he builds, because the order is everything. Suffering produces perseverance. Not immediately. Not automatically. But when you stay in the difficulty rather than running from it, when you do not numb out, check out, or give up, something begins to form in you. Perseverance is not a personality trait you are born with. It is a muscle that only gets built one way, by being used under resistance. You cannot develop it in the absence of something hard. This is why the suffering is not meaningless, it is the only environment in which this particular thing can grow. Perseverance produces character. This is the step most people underestimate. Character is not what you say you believe. It is not the version of yourself you present on your best days. It is what remains when the pressure has been on long enough to strip away everything that was surface level. The person who has persevered through something genuinely hard is different on the other side, more grounded, more honest, less impressed by things that do not matter, more available to people who are hurting. That is not an accident. That is character being formed the only way it actually forms. And character produces hope. This is where the chain lands, and it is a very specific kind of hope. Paul is not describing the hope of someone who has never been tested. That kind of hope is fragile. It is the hope that everything will probably work out because nothing has gone seriously wrong yet. The hope at the end of this chain is something different entirely. It is the hope of someone who has suffered, stayed in it, been changed by it, and come out the other side knowing that neither the suffering nor they themselves are what they feared. That is a tested hope. A proven hope. The kind that does not collapse when the next hard thing arrives, because it was built inside the last one. For us today, we live in a culture that is deeply allergic to this process. We want the hope without the chain. We want the character without the perseverance. We want to skip the suffering entirely and arrive at the person we are supposed to become through some faster, less painful route. And there are entire industries built around helping us avoid discomfort, to numb it, shortcut it, scroll past it, or medicate it into silence. None of that is entirely wrong. But none of it produces what Romans 5 is describing either. There is something that can only be built in you through difficulty that you stayed present for. Not suffering you performed, or suffering you dramatized, or suffering you used to get attention. Just suffering you were honest about, that you did not run from, that you let do its slow work in you. The forge has to be hot. The metal has to stay in long enough. There is no version of this that is quick or comfortable, and Paul is saying that is not a flaw in the design. It is the design. So instead of only asking when does this end, and it is okay to ask that, it is a deeply human question, you can also hold alongside it a second question. What is being built in me right now that I could not have gotten any other way? What is this season forging that the easier version of my life never could have produced? Those two questions can exist at the same time. The pain is real and the purpose is real, and you do not have to choose between acknowledging one and believing the other. The takeaway, the struggle you are in is not just something to survive. It is something that is actively shaping who you are becoming, and the person being formed on the other side of this is someone you could not have become without it.